what's up guys, TechTime here, and here we are. So this is the finale. This is going to be my final review of the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And I've seen a lot of reviews about this phone and a lot of comparisons, but I feel like for the most part, the reviews have all been the same and the comparisons have not been with the right phones in my opinion. So I did a couple of videos on this device. I'll leave them linked in the description. They're really helpful to help you make the final purchase decision. So with that being said, this is going to be a more of a technical review than a day on the life or the camera review that I've already done. So let's talk about the design itself. So this is a phone made out of glass and metal, which is a premium material that the A lineup has not seen in a while, especially the A50 lineup. So whether it's the A50, 51, 52, 53, here we are with the 54 that kind of resembles the S23. And honestly, from what I can see, you can call this not even the A54, but the S22 FE if you would. So since Samsung did not launch a FE edition this year, let's suppose that this is the FE model of the S23 lineup. All right, so yeah, overall though, as far as how the back looks and stuff like that, it's pretty, I don't want to say unique, but it looks exactly like a S23 back. It's hard for you to tell the difference unless you have them side by side or you're more familiar with one or the other. So as far as your port selection, on the bottom of the phone, you do have your USB-C. As far as the fast charging, you get a 25-watt wired charging, and you don't get any wireless charging or anything in that nature. So that's the first price cut that they did to make this phone kind of affordable. And we're going to talk about pricing later on in the video. So you also have a couple of microphones at the bottom as well. So it's a single firing bottom facing speaker, but the top right where the display is also you can think of it as a subwoofer to help boost the speaker quality, and it works really well. Okay. As far as the buttons go, you do have a power button as well as a volume up and down. In my opinion, they're good. They're tactile. Now, the power button, I wish it was just a little bit bigger. I don't know why they make it this small, but it is what it is. And you also do get the fingerprint sensor embedded within the display. More on that later on in the video. Right, you do get a microphone at the top as well as a SIM tool, and you do also have expandable storage. It comes with 128 gigabyte standard. That's just the model that I've been testing. And on the back of the phone, you also have a triple camera setup. Again, I don't want to keep mentioning this, but a full camera review will be linked in the description for a more detailed analysis of the camera, and I think you guys will enjoy that. All right, so the sides, like I said, are made out of metal. They are curved, so help out with the grip, but I do recommend the case. Now, the biggest selling factor in my opinion is this gorgeous display. So this is Samsung's OLED panel, and it is fantastic. Really good Samsung panel. So OLED, really bright, way brighter than the A53 from last year's generation. So that's already a thumbs up. And the resolution on it is fantastic. It will get the job done and then some. So definitely, in my opinion, actually beats out a lot of these more expensive phones. So the display is already a thumbs up. I mean, I couldn't expect anything less from Samsung. And in this display, you do get the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, which has been fairly reliable. It has been fast, so I really don't have any problem with it. In addition to all of that, you also get adaptive refresh rate. So up to 120 hertz is the maximum, which is fantastic to see on a phone like this. You also get a couple of more options. So you have the double tap to wake as well as the double tap to sleep, and one tap to give you this always on display. So really neat and nice touches from Samsung. Get a thumbs up from me. Okay, as far as the display goes, when it comes to content consumption, again, it's just a fantastic display, man. That's really the bottom line behind it. I can't complain about the screen whatsoever. It does the job and it does it fantastic. I haven't had a problem watching my videos. Now, does it support HDR? Kind of, but I don't really watch a lot of HDR content to begin with. I think they're a little bit overrated, but I'll save that for another video. And let's go ahead and go back to the camera. So we said that this camera has a triple camera setup, and as far as the camera quality itself, it is nice. So the triple camera setup specs are the following. So we get a 50 megapixel main sensor that also supports optical image stabilization, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, as well as a 5 megapixel macro sensor that kind of act, in my opinion, as a zoom lens, but not really. You also get a 32 megapixel selfie camera. Now, hear me out. As far as the camera quality goes, my summary is this. So this phone takes some respectable pictures. Are they better? Are there better phones at this price point? Yes. What are they? Well, I can only think of one at the top of my head, and that is the Pixel 6a. But that's, in my opinion, in a category of its own. So the triple camera setup does fantastic. The wide angle does lose out in quality, and the macro sensor also loses out on quality. But in a typical Samsung fashion, what Samsung loves to do is kind of oversaturate the picture to make it pop. So it is vibrant, oversaturated, and the bokeh effect on here is also fantastic in my opinion. It does really well. The HDR is fine, but as you can see, like when it comes to pictures with color, the colors will pop in your face. So it is pleasing to look at. Is it natural? No, but in a lot of scenarios, that's okay. It doesn't need to be. All right. As far as the dynamic range, like I said, it's fine. It does the job well, especially when HDR is on. Now, what I found trouble in this phone's camera is kind of not necessarily nighttime photography, but photography with artificial light. It kind of struggles with color accuracy, but this camera was never color accurate to begin with, so can't give it too much of a harsh judgment there. But as far as detail and as far as the exposure and the ISO, it's it's respectable. I mean, it takes some decent pictures. So again, like I said, since the wide angle is only 12 megapixels, it does lose out on resolution as well as quality. The macro sensor does the job fairly well, and nighttime photography, when you start losing daylight, then you will see the pictures suffer, but more on that in a little bit as well. As far as the selfie camera, it's fair. It's not the best that I've seen, but it does the job well. As far as the video quality goes for this camera, you can record up to 4K. Now keep in mind, when you go and record in 4K, you will lose out on the image stabilization for video. So no stabilization when you're recording in 4K. However, when you switch it to 1080p, you do get your video stabilization back. So keep that in mind if you plan on doing stills, then record in 4K. If you want to record moving subjects, I would scale it down to 1080p. That way you get your image stabilization. Now, nighttime photography. Is it great? It's all right. However, you do get a fun feature, which is night mode, with obviously a lot of phones have it nowadays, but it's really aggressive on this phone. So when it comes to when there's a little bit of light at nighttime, then it doesn't really do it aggressively. But when you take pictures of something that is really dim, then that's when you will see how aggressive it will be. So take this for example. So we're in a dim quality right now, and I want to take a picture of this tree that you can barely see right now. So I point the camera, take my shot, I switch to the macro sensor to see if it will make a difference, and it will ask you to hold the camera still so it can process it. So a lot of processing is going on, and look at this. It's not the best picture, but it actually gives you this artificial light. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the specs a little bit. So you have octa-core, and it's a decent processor. And you also have 6 gigabytes of RAM, which is nice. I don't want to really get too technical here, but I do want to say this. So I did a benchmark, and as far as the average scores that I was able to get, so the single core was consistently 1012 and the multi-core is 2818, which again, respectable scores. And as far as my performance, oh, by the way, this phone does have 5000 milliamp hour battery, which, believe it or not, is a bigger battery than the standard S23 that costs double this phone's price. So keep that in mind. All right. As far as the actual performance though, the daily tasks this phone just handles it no problem at all. So my really concern with the performance, right now I don't have any concern. It does everything that I ask it to do really well. But how will it hold when it's not brand new? So how will it hold when it's 6 months old or even a year old? For that, it's just gonna come down to being patient. So I will do a follow-up video in 6 months to see if it holds up well. The A53 did not. It actually disappointed me because after a year of usage, it did lag and slowed down tremendously. It was kind of disappointing, to be honest with you. I'm hoping that it doesn't happen with this generation, but we'll see. Can't make any promises. So let me give you my overall conclusion on this phone. So the reason this review is a month after this phone came out is because I really wanted to take the time and understand how good or how bad this phone is. And let me tell you, are there downsides of owning this phones? Yeah, if you're into wireless charging, you're gonna be disappointed. There are a couple of features that are missing on this phone that you can only find in flagship, but the gap between kind of a I don't want to say this is a budget phone since it does cost almost $500, but actually you can get it for around $290, which is where the pricing comes in. If you can find it on a deal that the carrier that you have, fantastic. If you want it outright unlocked, then I would wait until it goes on sale before I spend $469. It's not worth that in my opinion. The max I would spend on it unlocked is $399. But with that being said, the gap between a flagship phone and kind of a mid-range device has been shrunk down tremendously. So that's fantastic to see in today's market, right? Overall, this phone is respectable. I think that, in my opinion, this is top five mid-range devices out right now. It's hard to call this the best because there are phones that are slightly better. But as far as what you would expect out of a phone, this hits every category almost perfectly for the price. If you can get it for around 290 to 350 bucks. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching. I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.